British Airways European Club Europe business class is by far at the moment open to some of the most in-depth scrutiny on the market, with British Airways recently announcing that a select few short-haul European and UK domestic flights, they will be stopping food service on their Club Europe cabin. You join me here today at the Hilton Aberdeen TECA Hotel, which is about 15 minutes from Aberdeen Airport. You're going to be joining me on a Club Europe flight from Aberdeen to London Heathrow's Terminal 5. Now, why? You're probably thinking, why? Well, Aberdeen is still technically classed as a longer domestic flight for British Airways. I mean, they are offering a Club Europe service. Aberdeen is one of the most busiest domestic flights that British Airways operate, and you're coming along with me on board one of their Airbus A320neos on this UK domestic flight in their Club Europe cabin. So I'm starting this journey back to London Heathrow from the Hilton Aberdeen TECA Hotel, which is just a few moments from the airport, which is super convenient if you have an early flight, or just super convenient in general if you need to get to the airport. For today's journey, we took a taxi to the airport. It cost £14, and that included the drop-off fee. Arriving at Aberdeen International Airport, the first thing you're hit with is the incredibly large advert for Loganair. This clip does not do it justice of just quite how cold it was, hence why I was in a bit of a rush to get into the warmth of the airport. Get through that airport door, and it is like the plane door opening in the Mediterranean in the summer. The warmth just hit you in the face. Left hand side there is the Loganair check-in, and identified straight ahead there is our British Airways check-in. Quite a lot of uni queues, but British Airways do operate quite a lot of flights, and to be fair, I think quite a lot of people do use the British Airways for connections onto other destinations from London Heathrow. So this airport was actually quite difficult when arriving. It's sort of a bit of a mind fart, really. But well, that's for another day, isn't it? So we've identified the Club Europe check-in. This is where we'll be checking in today for our flight. Okay, so the check-in was closed when we arrived, and it was due to be open in about 10 minutes, so we had a short wait, and to be fair, we were the only ones in the queue, so there was absolutely no need whatsoever for any form of getting there early. Shortly after, about a 10-minute wait, the staff come and they opened up the check-in desk. They were very, very friendly. And there we have security. Fast track today with Club Europe. That's included in our ticket, which was absolutely pointless. We got through in about 30 seconds and we were the only people there. By this point, I'm walking through the standard sparkly floor in duty free, and I'm starting to think, are we the only people in this airport or on this flight? We was wrong. So this is the walk through the deserted terminal. To be fair, considering the size of the airport, the offerings were actually very, very, vast. There's lots to offer, plenty of restaurants. There's the tech shop. You've got your standard WH Smith, as you would expect. You've got your Boots, and there's plenty of variety of seating for people that obviously were not fortunate enough to have the lounge. We're on our way now to the lounge, which was obviously signposted to the right. British Airways, Club Europe or Silver status, you had your own British Airways lounge. On the way to the lounge, we were greeted by this lovely KLM, brand new Embraer, which was here parked up because there was a flight yesterday to Amsterdam that was cancelled. So I'm going to assume the crew are somewhere in a hotel waiting to be told when they will be returning back to Amsterdam. A couple of Loganairs as well, the standard ATR 72, which was boarding at the time of walking through. So here's the lounge. Like I say, British Airways have got their own lounge at Aberdeen. As we look to turn left, it's one of them things where you feel a bit awkward walking in with the camera on, so all of a sudden we've appeared at the seat. So plenty of seating. The one guy in the corner, I'm sure, probably looked at me filming this and thought, what are you doing? But hey ho, here we are. Left here and a variety of food selections and alcohol. You can tell there's a Scottish theme here because it has some very, very lovely looking Scottish whiskies. And one thing to note here, and I think it's the same in other British Airways lounges, whether you're in sort of Edinburgh, Glasgow, or anywhere sort of with a British Airways lounge, it is the exact same standard and the exact same style of food that you'd receive if you was in another one of them lounges. With one thing I did notice is the exact same coffee machine that they used to have at Heathrow. However, they did have haggis dumplings, so there is yet again that touch of Scottish there with your standard pies, peas and mash. and there was a flume of gravy. Got myself a few tea bags of special peppermint and green tea. Of course, they will be going in the bag. Cranberry juice and a white wine for my partner, and a lovely view of the airfield. Now, I tell you what, you're watching out that window, you actually don't realise how many of them offshore helicopters are back and forth all day. Time to board. Off to the gate now. We've boarded from gate A3, I believe. Yet again, someone might actually say, no, you're incorrect. But there is our chariot for the day, a 1-year-old Airbus A320neo. Yet again, it doesn't quite hit just how cold it was. And it was actually starting to sleet at this point. So up the stairs we go, like I say, onto our 1-year-old Airbus A320neo. And I was delighted to say when we boarded the aircraft that we was greeted with the brand new Club Europe cabin. This design is only being rolled out on their new Airbus Neos, and it really had a bit of a warm feel about it. And there we go, we are on the plane. So that's the view from seat 1F. I'm going to show you a little bit of the legroom now as we come down. I'm 6'2" for reference, so yes, okay legroom. But I think in the previous video that my partner actually did the review on the Airbus A319, it was even more tight for her, and she's 5'1", so relatively tight on the 319. With the 320neo, I felt there was adequate legroom. You can say that in row 2 you do get a little bit more. Try and get another little view of the cabin the best I can. Obviously, you know, I don't want to be waving a camera around in people's faces. It's one of them things, but hey, this is the new style cabin, and I can say it was incredibly comfortable. The standard tray table in the seat, there it is. That works fine, as you'll see very soon when it comes to the meal service. Now, we are about to commence our pushback there. As you can see, the 737 Classic West Atlantic, which is by far something that is very rare these days, but obviously they're mostly found in the cargo industry, or Jet 2 if you're flying from Leeds Bradford, set to be retired soon. So at this point, the flight deck have informed us we've got a 1 hour and 10-minute flight to London Heathrow this evening, and the weather en route should be all okay once you got through that base layer of cloud here in Aberdeen. And coming into London, there will be a further update in due course. Now, one thing you do realise, or what I did realise here, is the sheer number of Logan airplanes on the ground not being used at Aberdeen. Is it because it's a Sunday? I don't know. I really don't. Let me know. Are these actual aircraft getting used during the week? So let's push back, and I will now refrain from communicating, shall we say, while you enjoy the taxi out and the takeoff from a very wet and cold Aberdeen. And there we go, up and into a windy, brisk Aberdeen, with the view elegant as always. As you can see, well, you can't see, that's the problem, the cloud is very low, and like I say, it just makes you sort of really realise the frequency that them offshore helicopters are operating at, the weather and the challenging sort of flying conditions them helicopter pilots must face is rather challenging. So very shortly after takeoff, we was greeted literally 30 seconds after takeoff with a nice welcome on board message as we broke through that lovely cloud layer and up, and we finally started to see some blue skies. Now, one thing that really did baffle me, and I've never had this before, is this the way British Airways are going forward on their new Club Europe style service? A menu. Yes, we had a menu on a flight, a short-haul domestic flight. Main course that I chose was the British beef. Yeah, it's a very basic menu, but it's the menu, and then the new design on the menu as well. And the standard British Airways Club Europe drinks that you would expect to receive on any form of sort of, short haul to medium haul style Club Europe service. Like I say, I've gone for the beef, and here it is. And I tell you what, it was actually really, really nice. Dough & Co, yet again, have absolutely played it out of the park. For drinks, it was sparkling water and, of course, a nice cup of coffee. The Union coffee that British Airways serve up is a personal favourite of mine. And by all means, would it be the drinks and meal service without a little bit of turbulence? Absolutely not. And as you can see, that was finished. I can't lie, my partner wasn't too keen on the beef and the dessert, so I did what any good boyfriend would do and absolutely devour it. I mean, I probably used the wrong word there, but you get what I mean. Time to go to the loo. Here we are, Airbus A320neo. Airbus A320 loo. There we go, a little bit of nice white company stuff, a little bit of spray if you decide, to drop a douche on a 1 hour flight and you need to spray something to hide the smell. And a thumbs up from me, 6'2", the standard headbutting of the wall. Some lovely clouds now, and I'll let you just enjoy the sound for the remainder of this clip.
Millions of pounds for people living through the most challenging of times in the UK and around the world. If you would like to help us, you can today by simply donating any spare change in any currency into our charity collection bag, which a member of crew will bring through the cabin soon.
Down we come into London Heathrow today. Now, I think this is the right time in the video to kind of sort of conclude this flight and again try to explain the reason why we're flying Club Europe on a short-haul domestic flight. Well, British Airways have recently had a lot of criticism with their British Airways sort of club, the new Club Europe style sort of, system that they're operating. They've decided that they're going to cut things back in certain flights. So, for example, if you're flying to Amsterdam, Paris, Newcastle, Manchester, that is just a handful of destinations. They're cutting the food service from their Club Europe cabin. So, technically, Aberdeen is a longer short-haul flight, shall we say? So we got given the meal service, which, to be fair, was absolutely incredible. And I've got to say, this British Airways flight was actually incredible, and from the crew to the food to the new style cabin and just the little touches, the crew by sort of referring to us as our surname, and it just sort of gives a little bit of class, and it was just like really, really nice, and it felt like sort of British Airways of the old, if that makes sense. It's almost like the British Airways have had their few ropey years, their post-COVID sort of trauma, and they're trying to very slowly now get back onto the right direction. So what I'll do now is, again, I'll hush up and let you enjoy the landing at London Heathrow before we sort of give the conclusion of this actual video. But overall, so far, absolutely incredible, and I truly mean it. And I would criticise British Airways, and I think they're very easy to criticise, but you've got to give them credit where credit is due. Very warm welcome here to London Heathrow's Terminal 5, the home of British Airways. So, short taxi in, on pulling onto our stand. Domestic arrivals, it was nice not to be greeted by a bus as well. We just keep getting a little bit more lucky. No bus, no worries. Straight up through the jet bridge and then a walk to domestic arrivals to reclaim our bag. So why this flight and how much did it cost, and in regards to sort of air miles and whatnot. So why we actually took this was a British Airways holiday package, 2 nights in Aberdeen for a select amount of money. Now the reason why we chose this is because it was going to allow us, after 2 upcoming trips, to in essence get us gold status on their new sort of point system, which was absolutely sort of bang on what we needed. We sort of worked it out, we sat down, we thought to ourselves, look, we're very close to gold, we've got 2 very nice trips coming up, we might as well go for it. So Aberdeen, with the bonus from the British Airways holidays, you know, it was just a no-brainer. So we're now in the domestic arrivals baggage reclaim as we wait for our bags to come, and this is actually technically on the other side of the international arrivals, so it's a little bit sort of hidden away, but overall, you know, it was about a 10-minute wait for our bags, which I understand they have a priority, don't they? They need to get all the other bags to the connecting flights before they dish all our bags out on to the belt. Now up the elevator to level 2 towards the pod park, which is what we chose, and now this is the moment I think we've all been waiting for. You're about to see my partner demonstrate how you use the pod, which I think honestly is, you know, if you've got British Airways Heathrow Rewards, what am I saying? If you've got Heathrow Rewards, you can collect points, and these can technically be transferred into tier points. We pay a little bit extra to get the pod park because it's just incredible, really, and one of the prime examples of why it is incredible, I'll show you very shortly, is coming up. I have found though recently, if you do sort of arrive or travel later in the day, they are sort of charging quite frequently. It's never really used to be something that caught my attention, but recently I've been sort of having, you know, a couple of minute wait at the pod station while pods are charging. But it was into the pod, and here we go. This is what the pod, this made the bonus payment for the pod make it even better. We are joined here by a Singapore Airbus A380 making its final approach into Heathrow. What a way to conclude the trip. So all that's left for myself to say is, I tell you what a flight that was. And, you know, people are very easy to criticise British Airways, but you have to give them credit where credit is due. Arriving at station B to a short walk to the car. If you enjoyed the video, just press that like button, give us a subscribe, and by all means, we'll see you for a lot more fun in the future. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed.